Hey everyone, my name's Alex and I'm 22. I don't usually post about personal stuff, but lately, things at home have been spiraling and I feel like I need to get it off my chest. I'm hoping that hearing some outside perspectives will help me figure things out. So here goes. I'm currently in college studying software design, a field I've been passionate about for years. The goal is to start my own company someday, be my own boss, create something meaningful. To help fund my future, I work part-time as a junior developer. The pay isn't great, but it's enough to cover my personal expenses while I keep my eye on the long-term prize. Since my college is pretty close to my parents' place, I decided to live at home while I'm studying. It's more economical, plus it saves me on transportation costs. But don't get it twisted. I'm not freeloading. I contribute. I pay my parents $550 every month for rent and other household expenses. It seemed fair, considering that's probably close to what I'd pay if I lived on my own. I wanted to help out, not just coast by. For a while, everything was fine. I had my routine, classes during the day, work in the evenings, and weekends spent studying or catching up with friends. It wasn't the most exciting lifestyle, but it was mine, and I was making it work. My parents, in their own way, were supportive of my goals, even if we didn't always see eye to eye. They understood the importance of education, or at least I thought they did. But something shifted over the past few months. I didn't notice it at first, but it became more apparent as time went on. It started with small changes in the way my parents talked about money. They'd mention my brother, Ethan, more often. He's 20, just a year younger than me, and it wasn't just casual conversation. They started talking about how much more they were investing in his future. Now, Ethan's a good kid. At least, he used to be. He's always been the golden child of the family, a phrase my parents don't even try to hide anymore. He's got that natural charisma that makes people gravitate toward him, and he's always been the one who could do no wrong in their eyes. But here's the thing. Ethan had dropped out of college last year. He was going through some personal stuff, they said, and had taken a break to figure himself out. But this break turned into something else entirely. Ethan started living with my parents again, but he wasn't really contributing in any meaningful way. He was spending his days playing video games or hanging out with friends, while my parents picked up the slack for him. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe he needed time to get himself together, I thought. After all, we all go through phases, right? But then, the changes at home started to become more noticeable. My parents began asking me for more money. At first, it was just a small increase. Could you pitch in an extra $100 this month? We're a little short. And being the responsible person I try to be, I agreed. But then it happened again the next month, and the month after that. Each time, it wasn't just a request for a little extra here or there. It started to feel like a pattern. When I asked about it, my mom explained that things were a little tight, and Ethan needed some support with his next steps. I didn't know what she meant by that, but I could see where this was going. They were starting to prioritize him over me, and it wasn't just financial. It was emotional, too. They'd ask about my plans, my goals, but there was this underlying tone that felt more like a formality. Ethan's future was suddenly the center of their universe. I tried not to let it get to me, but it did. I've worked hard for everything I have. My dream of starting a company wasn't just some far-off fantasy. I was already making moves to make it happen. But no matter how much I pushed forward, it felt like my efforts were being drowned out by their constant focus on Ethan's potential. Then came the turning point. One evening, my parents sat me down and told me they needed to raise my rent again. This time, it wasn't just a small increase. They were asking me for $200 more a month. I know it's a lot, Alex, my mom said, but we've had to make some adjustments. Ethan has some things he needs to work through, and we're helping him out. At that moment, it hit me. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about something deeper. My parents were prioritizing Ethan's needs over mine. They were putting all their energy into supporting him, while I was expected to shoulder more and more of the financial burden. I wasn't okay with that. I spent the next few days thinking it over. I tried to be reasonable, tried to see it from their perspective. But I couldn't ignore how one-sided it felt. I wasn't getting the same level of support, emotional or financial, that they were so willing to give Ethan. And frankly, I was tired of it. I was 22, not a child, and I had my own dreams to chase. So I made a decision. I told my parents I was moving out, I needed space to grow, and I needed to do it without feeling like I was constantly competing with Ethan for their attention, their money, and their approval. It wasn't easy. They tried to convince me to stay, promising they'd figure things out, but I stood my ground. I packed my things and found a small apartment near my campus. It wasn't glamorous, and I'd be paying a lot more than I was used to, but it was mine. It was a place where I could focus on my future without being dragged down by the weight of their expectations. And that's where things stand now. My parents haven't really reached out since I moved out. They've been distant, and I can't help but wonder if they're regretting their decision to prioritize Ethan over me. Maybe they think I'll come crawling back when things get tough. But I'm not sure if I'm ready for that. I'm still figuring things out, navigating this new chapter of my life. But one thing's for sure, I won't let them make me feel like I'm not worthy of their support just because I'm not the golden child. Things escalated quickly after that. It wasn't just about the money anymore, or even the constant sense that I wasn't being treated fairly. It was about my space, my privacy, being invaded in ways I couldn't ignore. I came home from work one night to find my brother Ryan's wife, Emma, rifling through my desk drawers. I froze. What the hell was she doing in my room? I asked her point blank. What are you doing? She just smiled and said, Oh, I was looking for a pen. A pen? Seriously? There's an entire drawer full of pens in the kitchen? But she decided to come into my personal space to look through my things. I felt a wave of frustration flood over me. It wasn't just about the pen, it was the complete lack of respect. When I brought it up to Ryan, I expected some kind of apology or at least a conversation about boundaries. But instead, he just shrugged it off and said, she didn't mean anything by it. As if that made it okay. It didn't. It was a blatant disregard for my privacy, and Ryan wasn't even going to acknowledge it. I tried to let it go, but that night, I overheard Ryan talking to my parents. They were all sitting in the living room, and I caught bits and pieces of their conversation from the hallway. Ryan was saying something like, You know, it's time for Alex to step up. He needs to be more supportive of the family. It's not just about him anymore. I could feel my blood start to boil. More supportive. This was the same guy who had dropped out of school, bounced between jobs, and still couldn't manage to pay his own bills. He wasn't even contributing at home, and now he was trying to guilt-trip me into giving up even more of my money and time for him. That's when it hit me. I couldn't do this anymore. I had spent my whole life trying to be the good kid. I worked my ass off in school, took on extra jobs, and tried to do everything right, hoping that one day my parents would see my worth. But now I realized it wasn't going to happen. No matter how hard I tried, they would always choose Ryan. They always had, and they always would. I remember just standing there in the hallway, listening to the conversation, and something inside me snapped. I couldn't keep doing this. I couldn't keep letting Ryan get away with everything while I was the one left carrying the weight. That night, I pulled up apartment listings. I didn't care about the cost or the hassle. I was done. It wasn't an easy decision. I didn't have a ton of savings, and I knew moving out would only make things more tense between me and my family. But I couldn't stay in that toxic environment. I was tired of being treated like a second-class citizen in my own home. If my parents were going to continue putting Ryan on a pedestal, fine. But they were going to have to do it without me. I didn't owe them anything, and I definitely didn't owe Ryan, who had no intention of ever growing up. So that was it. I made the decision. I started packing up my stuff bit by bit. I hadn't told anyone yet. I didn't know how they'd react, but honestly, at that point, I didn't care. My family wasn't going to change, and neither was I. I was done trying to please people who didn't appreciate me. The weight of everything started to lift once I moved out. For the first time in weeks, I sat down with my laptop and actually got some work done without the constant distractions. It felt amazing. I had some peace, a moment of clarity. I even started to think maybe I had made the right decision after all. I'd been carrying a lot of emotional baggage, and being away from that toxic environment gave me a chance to breathe again. Of course, that peace didn't last long. By Sunday evening, my phone started blowing up. My mom had finally noticed I wasn't home and was calling nonstop. I ignored the first few calls, but I knew I couldn't keep avoiding her. So I answered. She didn't even give me a chance to say hello before she started yelling. "Alex, where are you? Why aren't you home? We've been calling you all day." I took a deep breath and tried to keep my cool. I don't live there anymore. I've moved out. There was silence on the other end. It felt like a whole minute passed before she finally exploded. What do you mean you've moved out? Why didn't you tell us? How could you do this to your family? I braced myself for what was coming. She went on about how I was abandoning them, how they'd been counting on me to help with expenses. Every word she said hit me like a punch in the gut. I tried to explain calmly. I've been paying more than my fair share for years, while Ryan contributed nothing. But she completely brushed that aside. Ryan has kids, Alex. You don't understand what it's like to be a parent. That was it. That was the moment I knew there was no point in reasoning with her. I'd reached my breaking point. I said, Mom, I've done everything I could to help, but I can't live like that anymore. If you want to support Ryan, that's your choice, but I'm not going to keep sacrificing my own life for it. And with that, I hung up. I didn't have the energy to keep arguing, not when I already knew how the conversation was going to end. The next day, the messages started flooding in. My mom sent a long text about how I was being selfish and ungrateful, followed by another one accusing me of tearing the family apart. My dad even joined in, telling me he was disappointed in me, that I needed to grow up and understand the importance of family. Ryan, of course, didn't miss his chance to weigh in. He texted me saying, "Wow, way to screw over Mom and Dad when they need you most. Real mature." I didn't respond to any of it. I knew exactly what they were trying to do. Guilt tripped me into coming back, making me feel like the bad guy. But I wasn't falling for it anymore. The silence was actually a relief. I was finally standing up for myself, even if it meant breaking ties with the family I had tried so hard to please for so long. Story 2. It's time to raise a chair. In the Oral Lounge today, we have another fantastic anecdote for you. It's time to face reality. Is loyalty to one's family more important than doing the right thing? Let's investigate it in the R Lounge today. Our first. It seems that OP's non-job isn't excellent enough to keep her out of a wedding money issue, but it's good enough for her sister to fire her. After my sister claimed that my employment isn't a legitimate career, am I the bad one for not helping her pay for her wedding? I currently work as a home manager for a family in my 2060 S. One of my supervisors is a company owner, entrepreneur, and her spouse. Due to their schedules, my other employer, who is a major player in a building firm, need a home manager. In actuality, I have a rather easy job. The home is run by me. Cleaning is something I like, when the errands are conducted by the housekeepers. I oversee all of the outside vendors, light cooking, laundry, auto maintenance, animal care, and child care duties. I take care of some monitoring when we're at home and transport their children to school and after-school activities. Additionally, I keep up with my boss's schedules. Almost everything in their personal life, including family dinners, doctor's visits, and vacations, as well as several things in their professional lives, such client meetings and work travels, are scheduled by me. I ensure that there are no conflicts and that everything that needs to be scheduled is scheduled. I have to be aware of everything that is happening in their life since I am the one who goes through most of it. I truly like my work. I have a separate bedroom and bathroom where I reside on site. I receive fantastic compensation and perks. Contrary to popular belief, the hours are actually quite nice, and my bosses and their kids are wonderful people. I may select the hours I wish to work, and I get weekends and holidays off. My sister has consistently denigrated my life and work, telling me on several occasions that it isn't a legitimate employment, I quote, just a glorified housewife who will never be able to enjoy the benefits of marriage. I'm content being single. I've never been interested in getting married or starting a family. My sister, a 22-year-old woman, requested me to be her maid of honor after she got engaged a few months ago. I informed her that although I was honored, I would not have the time to do all of the responsibilities of a maid of honor. She would either need to choose another maid of honor and not only be a bridesmaid, or she would have to have someone else perform the tasks. My sister expressed her sorrow and anger by saying many derogatory things about me and my work, including the fact that it isn't really a job. What makes it so significant then? I was upset when she ultimately rescinded her invitation and reduced me to guest. Until last week, I had not heard anything about the wedding. I got a call from my sister asking if I could assist pay for the last wedding vendor they needed. It seems that she was unaware of the expense of flowers and they had already spent nearly all of the money. I informed her that I didn't have a job, so it was ironic that she was asking for money, and I laughed at her. Do you recall? In addition, she had expelled me from the bridal party since I didn't have the time to attend every function. My mother has phoned and texted me to complain that I'm being petty and juvenile, and that it's absurd of me to put work before family and treat my sister that way. Am I a whore? I solicit opinions. The community gives a reciprocal response. The first one, not the jerk. After treating you terribly, your sister denigrated your career and now demands that you pay for her wedding. Given her prior remarks and behavior, it makes sense that you are offended and unwilling to assist. You have a valid response. It's acceptable to express your dissatisfaction and to prioritize your job and limits. This was stated by another person. To be honest, I'm envious of your career. If you enjoy planning and managing a little community, you could be happy being single and childless. It seems like a dream realized. You're not a jerk. I also concur that because your sister doesn't believe you have a real job and you're only attending the wedding, you should let her know that wedding guests don't pay the vendors. Just be ready for her to back down once again and cancel your invitation completely. She's upset that you won't sacrifice yourself for a wedding that will probably burn down. The one with a steady, well-organized existence is you, OP. She's attempting to get you to finance it while she's busy living in turmoil. Regarding your mother, she seems more concerned with maintaining harmony than acknowledging your sister's arrogant actions. Keep that guilt trip out of your mind. If your sister is incapable of honoring your limits, she really has no need to take advantage of your time and money. What are you going to do next? A terrible prank gone bad. Due to my brother's fiancé playing a practical joke on my hubby, I'm considering skipping his wedding. I'm a girl 25-year-old, my brother who is 32, my husband who is 30 years old, and his fiancé who is 31 years old, recently paid us a visit in our city. They were staying with us for the first time, and my boyfriend and I had bought a house. Halloween is a big deal to my brother's fiancé. In addition to being a Disney grown-up, she occasionally displays her youthful side. When it comes to her interests, she is just really engrossed and captivated. In any case, I'm giving this for context because, in my opinion, she frequently overreacts, and I sincerely believe that what I'm about to say was the outcome of one of those instances where she just went too far and had some unfavorable effects. But she is seeing it as a very personal jab. We thus disagree, and as a result, my husband ended their visit early. In other words, they were asked to leave. Since meeting him, 31 women have commented on him several times. After that, my hubby seems gloomy. She often makes comparisons between him and the characters in the books she reads. It, quote, as not always a critique. They are compliments, she always says. I'm not sure anymore, though. She bases these similarities on his appearance, his tattoo, and the whole aura he exudes. It's on his hand, yet he only has one. She said during this last visit that she can't fathom someone like him being frightened or screaming, thus she would want to see him feel afraid. During her time with us, she made it her mission to scare him. We are all unaware of it, not even my brother. She attempted to jump scare my husband in the garage, which is what started all the trouble. As he was coming back from a run in the dark, she ambushed him in the garage while fully clothed and wearing a mask. He did not, however, scream as she desired. He pushed her against the wall in an automatic reaction. She was shaken up after hitting her head. Fortunately, he quickly deduced from the sound she made that it was probably not an intruder. He removed her mask and turned on the lights. He told me that at the time he was really perplexed. Why would she assault him? My spouse assisted her in entering. I apologized. After making her tea, she called me. When we got home, my brother and I were out. I asked 31 women if they were all right, and I told them that her prank was foolish because it could have caused her to suffer severe injuries. She started crying about my husband using too much force, even though she knew it was probably her playing a harmless prank. I'm not sure if that was what I said that upset her, or if she was simply waiting for her partner to get home. To put it briefly, my husband asked her directly, "Are you saying that I purposefully attacked you?" She hesitated but chose to say yes, and my husband responded to that with, "Leave my house." I attempted to defuse the situation, but my husband insisted that she wasn't allowed to stay if that was her true belief. 31 women decided to stand by their accusation. I chose to support my spouse. I've angered my brother. He believes that I ought to have attempted damage control and allowed them to remain. By persuading my husband to put more effort into expressing regret and appeasing his fiancée, who was still getting over the incident. He believes that my husband would have been able to fold if this whole situation had blown over. This seems unfair to me. My brother didn't speak up during the conversation or attempt to reason with his fiancée, even though he was counting on me to handle everything. Although my husband stayed composed the entire time, it's clear that her comments offended him, and I believe that's okay. Given that I believe my brother's fiancée was wrong for all of that, why should I have supported her over my own husband? Then going back and saying that my spouse wanted to harm her. My brother claims I was short-sighted and that I should consider their impending nuptials, but I believe he should be the one to persuade his fiancée to express regret to my husband. Editing. I would want to make it clearer what I meant by adding the language below, which aims to address some of the points that are being overlooked in the comments. I made an effort to diffuse the conflict. I had no doubts about my hubby and was not adopting the one feminine side. I just attempted to get everyone to think about tabling this till things had calmed down. And by those feelings, I mean my brother's fiancé's hysterics. My husband's choice was clearly decisive, yet he remained composed the entire time. After making his point, he stopped talking. As previously said, my brother looked to me in the hopes that I would convince my husband, but I failed to do so, and they were forced to remove the outfit. I remarked in a comment that I didn't have an opportunity to question that night, as she bought an outfit particularly for this prank, or whether it was my brother's Halloween costume. They go to adult Halloween parties, and we're going one this weekend, 2 hours from where we live. It was part of my brother's outfit. A golden masquerade mask with more covering. She was wearing a long robe or cloak with a hood, and it made me think of the gold-jeweled animal masks from Squid Game or something you could see at a Rothschild party in the 1970s. I'm asked to provide updates. I'll take care of that. I believe these two were the ones that came up the most, but please also check my comments in case I have previously addressed any questions you may have had. I apologize for not being able to read every remark. I'm exhausted. In a few more community comments, I'll be showing my brother this topic. None of this would have occurred if she hadn't concealed herself in the shadowy garage and worn a disguise. He couldn't have realized at the time that it was her, and I think anyone would have reacted similarly. She, quote, fortunate, to be honest, that she wasn't worse injured than she was. This is a clear case of cause and effect. But she refuses to take accountability. The behavior, in my opinion, is classified as playing dumb games. It's disrespectful for them to attempt to hide her responsibilities, not the a-hole, and your spouse has nothing to answer for. Not the a-hole, just another viewpoint. Your prospective sister-in-law has a mental illness. She assaults a person who enters his own house. He responded appropriately. How would he be able to identify her? She discovered out by asking around. She ought to have heard from your brother. She is to blame. Once they are married, expect more dramatics. And now, make low contact. She will never be at blame for anything. Added after editing. Before they fabricate it and accuse your spouse of acting correctly, call your family right away and explain what happened. To be honest, your spouse behaved the way anyone would have when suddenly surprised in their own house, and your brother's fiancée went too far. She shouldn't have crept up on him in a dark garage wearing a spooky mask if she didn't want that type of reaction. She, quote, fortunate that things didn't become worse. And your spouse must have been somewhat confused when he learned what had transpired. Update. After the event, I made several attempts to speak with my brother, but I refused to comply with his requests. Thus, each effort ended in quiet. When Amit, one of my husbands, apologized to his fiancée, I first played things down to make her feel better about her practical joke. I was hesitant to forward my Reddit post to him. I initially believed that it may be used against us to make matters worse, but his complete incapacity to communicate with me or recognize the reality of the situation became quite annoying. The next best way, I reasoned, would be for him to read all of your comments because I couldn't physically give him a hard, cold slap for telling me to be complacent and letting my husband be wrongly accused of assault. I attempt to anticipate the scenario by telling my parents, as I was advised here. My father, a sensible and pragmatic guy, instantly supported my husband. His remarks were in line with those of many others there. A mother, who has regrettably always supported my brother, advised that we at least listen to her. She was referring to my brother's fiancée, and she focused on how risky and careless the prank was, as well as the consequences of being unjustly accused of assault. As angry as I was by her response, it didn't surprise me. Despite my dad's attempts to silence her doubts, she continued to support my brother for a few days until I showed him the video from my brother's Tesla, which he had attempted to erase the Century thing. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing the terms. I don't own a Tesla. A portion of the conversation in the garage was recorded. The aftermath, not the actual jump scare, which, in my view, was more important. The account of my spouse was verified. To immobilize her and get ready to escalate if needed, he applied a controlled amount of force. It is unquestionably not due and very kind of someone to do in such a circumstance. I'm beginning to reevaluate some previous encounters in light of the many of your conjectures that she could have a fixation, or perhaps a crush, on my spouse. Additionally, I misinterpreted the gloomy novels she claimed to like and likened my fiancé to. Comments on this page taught me that they are a subgenre of romance, since one of the characters I remembered her comparing my husband to was from a book about dragons. I was unaware that she was comparing him to characters in romance novels. Although my brain brushed the names aside during chats, I sincerely hope I still remember the names of the several individuals she has mentioned over the months, so I can satiate my own curiosity. My brother, my parents, my brother's fiancée, and her parents are all on the group chat for the wedding. I discussed the situation in that discussion, but I kept the Tesla video private, only stated that it is real. I know her parents saw the message, but they didn't reply in the conversation. Her mother later phoned my. Evidently, they were unaware of the hoax. It's difficult to tell if they trust me or if they have separated from their daughter after talking to her. Both my brother and his fiancée have apologized to my husband and asked us to attend their forthcoming wedding. In an effort to maintain harmony, my parents have urged us to go, stating that it is the morally right thing to do. We have thus made the decision to go for the sake of family etiquette. But my spouse has stated unequivocally that we are obligated to be there. From now on, we shall avoid them at all costs. There won't be any more invites to our house, even if we haven't said so directly. Not even for the pre-event Christmas supper that we had organized. In the future, my spouse plans to avoid any contact with my brother's fiancée. We will never trust her again, in my opinion. To see where we are, I'll try to have some one-on-one time with my brother. This experience has made me understand that I lost him to her a long time ago, which has caused tension in our relationship. I hadn't realized it completely until now. We appreciate everyone's thoughts and comments. When I was contacted by a news reporter, I recall asking them to spread the following message if they used my story. By sharing my tale, I wish to raise awareness of the risks associated with ambush-style pranks. Pranks of this nature instill a sense of danger and expose all participants to the possibility of severe damage or harm. They are hazardous and foolish. For the sake of a practical joke, nobody should have to feel intimidated or have their safety jeopardized. It's not a hoax, if that's the setup. There will always be repercussions for such actions, some of which may be irreversible, and no practical joke is worth the chance of causing harm to someone. A little footnote was added after editing. I know people become interested and curious, but please take this as my last update, if required. Though it is improbable and won't happen very soon, I will provide another update in the future. I decided to include this warning here and make another change to correct the formatting because I received a number of direct messages asking for updates on the last article. Apparently, it was a dodo move for me to first write this post in my notes. Sorry, I'm terrible at this. It's encouraging to see you remain steadfast in your belief that the prank was absurd and that your spouse is not to blame for responding as anybody else would have in those circumstances. It appears that the Tesla video changed the game by revealing the truth. You do the right thing by facing the problem head-on with your family, even if it's difficult, but sometimes the facts truly do speak louder than anything else. I appreciate the update, Opie. Thank you for coming to the lounge today and best of luck. To ensure you don't miss our next video, please press the notification bell, like, and subscribe. Till the next occasion. And return your chair, please. We located it. Story 3. It's time to raise a chair. In the lounge today, we have another fantastic story for you. Divorce. Since a thread is preferable to a heart-to-heart, I would want to read it. The comment section is now the new therapist's couch in the R Lounge. Am I the jerk for sending you a thread on the website where you used to ignore me to inform you that I'm divorcing you? Hello, Stefan. Perhaps you'll pay attention at last. And it's too late if you're thinking that you can just drive home and prevent me from doing this and going. After I've packed everything into the vehicle and driven off, I'm sending you this. Do not be concerned. After talking to our landlords, I removed my name from the contract. For the upcoming month's rent, I have arranged a direct deposit. Then. You're alone, friend. You must be asking why. You're acting as though you were totally unprepared, are I correct? Because you haven't done anything at all. And you're going to be a fantastic spouse and parent, aren't you? Let me explain it to you in a language you can comprehend, friend. I am a 29-year-old woman. My spouse, a 35-year-old man, and I have been together for over 10 years and have been married for 5 of those years. Everything appeared to be okay on paper. However, our marriage has actually been anything but. I need to know whether I'm the one at fault here since I've hit my breaking point. My mother-in-law has been a nightmare from the start. From day one, she made everything about herself. She said that wearing white at her wedding was a family custom. No comma, it wasn't. She was always criticizing me, from my looks to my cookery. She called me obese in front of everyone during a family get-together, and I will never forget it. What was my spouse up to? Nothing, not a word to support me. The story didn't end there. She threw out my grandmother's necklace since it appeared to be inexpensive costume jewelry, and she has unintentionally ruined other items that I own. She has made a special effort to minimize me. I'm walking in my own house, too. However, my husband would dismiss it every time I tried to discuss it with him, claiming that I was being too sentimental and overreacting. Then there's my spouse. He is often providing relationship advice to strangers on Reddit, which is absurd given how he treats me. He talks to me less often than he writes about women's breasts on Reddit. Literally. Just so you know, he didn't give the previous pair he graded a perfect score. I give them a perfect score. Yes, he has plenty of time to do that, but he doesn't care enough to recall any details of my life. Remember my birthday? It's our anniversary. What matters to me are even the little things, like the project I'm working on. However, he remembers everything that matters to him, including his job schedule. He gets quite violent when we argue, and he constantly ends his sentences with a sarcastic friend as if I were some acquaintance he can hardly stand. And he never does the housework, dishes, laundry, or anything else. I quote, am solely responsible. As long as he has a job and a Reddit account, he seems to believe that being an adult is optional. A few weeks ago was the last straw. Our first kid is a daughter, and I am 5 months along in my pregnancy. Because I'm too soft, my mother-in-law began saying that she would have to discipline the daughter and teach her to be harsh. My husband just laughed it off when I told him that I didn't want his mother to have too much impact on our kid, especially given the way she treats me. He accused me of overanalyzing the situation and said his mother meant well. My husband's suggestion that his mother keep our kid while we work during our conversation about future childcare, however, was the one that really crushed my heart. I informed him that, given the way his mother treats me, I didn't feel comfortable with it. Then he lost his temper. He accused me of being neurotic and advised me to move on since, like it or not, his mother will play a significant role in our daughter's life. This is the same woman who thinks it's acceptable to use physical punishment. No one has taken action when I've witnessed her hitting my husband's nephew for the little stuff. They all seem to be part of some sort of cult. Additionally, I'm at last realizing what's happening. How can I expect him to defend our child if you wouldn't defend me? I began to worry about the type of environment her kid would grow up in, one in which her own grandma may bully or denigrate her, and the father would do nothing to stop it. Did I also mention that he didn't show up for our initial ultrasound? His mother had an urgent need for his assistance. As it happened, it was repairing her Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi? He told me all I needed to know about my place in his life and chose it over meeting our daughter for the first time. I then packed things and departed. I quote, "I'm tired of living this way." Oh, and I've already been in touch with a lawyer, in case you were wondering. I have all those texts now, so you can't terrify me into complying. You are well aware of which ones I am referring to. I thus wish you luck in your future union with your mother and the Reddit user whose breasts you don't even merit, Stefan. After years of my husband's mistreatment, am I the lucky one for leaving him? I let his mother to abuse me, which made me worry about the safety of our future daughter. This post was viewed in the 7th Daily Update. He is upset because he was supposedly discovered by one of you because of the rape my boobs incident. For whatever reason, he has deactivated his account. To be clear, I didn't include any concrete evidence that would have led to his doxing. Anyone who claims to know me or has any knowledge that may be used against me is lying. My home state is not South Carolina. I'm not going to live with another man, and I'm not going to sit around either. Let's see what the community has to say now, not the a-hole first. I hope that Stefan and Mommy's wife remain stuck together forever. She would have attempted to harm her daughter and failed to raise her son into a fully independent human being. A letter, even. Another person adds their voice. The next step is to provide Stefan the URL to this post. I would hate for him to miss it. I wish you luck, Obi. You'll be fantastic. Mommy will be overjoyed that you're no longer around, especially since you've shed the 200 pounds that were weighing you down. Additionally, she has gained 200 pounds rather than the a-hole. Another verdict. This post was excellent, and I wish I could award it a gold star. Oh, phew, I'm going to leave you. Letter. In addition to posting a letter for her soon-to-be ex to read, I also came up with a pretty creative method to make it public. OP ensures that everything is done without your ex-mother-in-law, as the visitation agreements and arrangements are made with your lawyer and the judge. I quote, am sorry I reached this conclusion. You were never worthy of your ex. Not the full, of course. How some individuals can be so oblivious to what truly matters is astounding. You ought to be in a relationship where you are valued and encouraged, rather than denigrated. Ignored. I wish you luck in finding the contentment and tranquility you seek. Ruby. And well, it's his loss if he wants to waste his time reading ladies on the internet. Opie, you are most certainly not the angel in this situation. Update. Some Reddit users have been spreading untrue rumors and posing as me. It's different, they argued, and I'm a deadbeat who doesn't work. Has 2 jobs to help pay my bills. Even made up a narrative about I've been sleeping around and moving in with the guys I supposedly had affairs with. According to a neighbor who is apparently a dear friend of ours. This is all untrue. We are not friends with any of our neighbors, and we do not reside in South Carolina or the United Kingdom. I work and earn a little more than Stefan, and I have never cheated on him. The difference is only $1 per hour. These statements, in my opinion, might be the result of trolls trying to spread their message or Stefan's pals attempting to get me to take down my article. All I will disclose for now is that I am safe and staying with family. I can only tell you that I'm working with my lawyer to make sure we're protected. Women who are in my shoes and have to deal with a lease should speak with a pro bono attorney who focuses on tenant rights. I did just that. They can provide you guidance tailored to your nation or area. Since Stefan and I had both signed a lease and had served out the required minimum rental time, I was free to vacate my apartment. Following my complimentary consultation, I coordinated my departure with my landlords, a kind elderly couple. Therefore, don't be afraid. Even though you may feel afraid, there are steps you can do to keep yourself safe. Additionally, be cautious to verify your own credit. I did, and I'm dealing with it as well. Regarding current events, not much has changed thus far, and it is obviously desperate. He has had tantrums and started their own smear campaigns, as has my mother-in-law. After spreading untrue rumors about me, such as that I'm an inadequate mother, my mother-in-law has been ignoring my obligations. I have no intention of publicly responding to these allegations. Since she has nothing to support her claims, I'm gathering all the proof I can. However, I have all the evidence to support my therefore no, Stefan. This will not be a case of he said, she said. He said that one person discovered him, therefore he erased his Reddit account. However, he later informed me that he received death threats from a number of people, which seems implausible and incongruous. I believe his pals sent me some shady direct messages and remarks after he directed them to my post. I allegedly tried to speak with 7 people. Every time I expressed sentiments or voiced worries, he made me feel like I was going insane. He would brush things off, minimize my feelings, and cause me to doubt myself. He invited friends around without telling me beforehand, for example, and I discovered this when I got home. When I mentioned it. Even though I knew he hadn't, he would claim that he had mentioned previously. When I asked him for a certain dish for a special supper I had planned, he said I had asked for something quite different. I reminded him of what I had really asked for. He would claim that I must have made my own request so far, but he would also insist that he had finished things that I had done on my own. For instance, he would say he had done something around the home when I was the one who did it. He denied my memory when I brought this up, and he still maintains that he did it. Stefan would often deny what he had said or done, even while discussing a relationship. He claims that he has never before brought up the concerns I had about his mother's actions. You quote, simply exaggerating. This caused me to wonder if I had ever really talked about these issues or if I was just exaggerating. I once began to doubt my own sanity since I was so certain that I had schizophrenia or dementia with an earlier onset. I was disoriented and perplexed. In an attempt to keep track of what was truly happening, I started recording our conversations since I was having trouble telling the difference between reality and his version of events. Stefan, however, always managed to alter the facts by claiming that you were simply forgetting. Feeling so trapped, I saw that the only way I could express my reality in a way he could control was to share my tale online, despite the fact that I had ample evidence to the contrary. I wanted to make sure that the events were documented in an unambiguous and irrevocable manner. Regaining my voice and getting support from those who could relate to my circumstances required me to post about my experiences. After feeling so lost and questioning myself for so long, it was a means for me to regain control of my stories. I appreciate all of your help at this trying time. Please, Opie, let's have a brief comment. The traditional definition of gaslighting is just presented to you. You're really done with someone when they brush off your emotions, think you're being theatrical, and try to change the facts to make you doubt what you know to be true by claiming it never occurred or that you're remembering things incorrectly. Once more, congratulations. For you and your newborn girl, remain strong. While dealing with smear campaigns will be challenging for some time, it will subside if you need to file a harassment report with the police or get your attorney to prepare a stop and desist. As much of a paper trail as possible is necessary. Now that his BBS is public knowledge, he is vulnerable to the mama's boy. He is. Going forward, he cannot change the facts, and you are unquestionably acting morally. Just keep it in mind. Sharing your experience was a vital step in recovering your voice, and you deserve to have your truth acknowledged. Quote, hesitate to use the legal resources at your disposal and keep recording everything. Keep in mind that you are not defined by the circumstances. You and your daughter are making the proper decision. As you go forward, keep your health as your first priority, and I wish you the very best. What guidance would you provide someone who believes their relationship is ignoring or gaslighting them? Thank you for coming to our lounge today, and please share your thoughts in the comments section below. To ensure you don't miss our next video, please press the notification bell, like, and subscribe. See you shortly, and return your chair to its original location.